people of the internet, it's the Who Gaming here, and today we're back with another Quest TCG video, guys. And I want to take this time at the start of the video, guys, to remind you that Quest TCG Set 1 is now available on the Game Crafter, $5.99, link down in the description box below. Check it out. So, to coincide with the release of Quest Set 1, I'm going to do a ruling video, or videos, depending on how long it takes. And I'm going to go over a lot of the different rules of Quest, because you know what, it might be nice once you buy these packs to, actually know how to play the game. That might be a good thing. So I'm going to separate this into different parts that are going to cover certain topics of the game. And I think, hopefully, if I edit it pretty cool, it'll look cool, I hope. So let's get right into this tutorial or rule video for Quest. So to start off, we're going to talk about the different card types in Quest. We're going to start off with the different rarities of card types. So there are 5 different rarities plus a 6th full art type template that come in two different varieties. You have the base version, which is for creatures, warriors, and summoners, and then you have the alternate version of the template, which is used for summoner's art, armaments, sorcery, and castle cards. So we have 5 different rarities. We have common, bronze, silver, golden, and platinum, plus we have full art cards, which as of right now, are going to be reserved specifically for starter deck cards. That's the only time you're going to be able to get these. So these will not be available in packs, unfortunately. So we're going to give you a little bit of an example of each different kind of card. I'm going to switch into this other tab here, and here we have an example of a card from each card type. So we have Atlas the Earthen Warrior here is a warrior. We have Oceanus here is a summoner. Helios is a creature. Key to the Soul is a summoner's art card. When the Bells Toll is a sorcery. Uhane Akame is a armaments. And the Cardinal Tower is, of course, a castle. Now, each of these cards have certain properties that are unique to their card type. So we have the warrior here. The warrior is your basic card that you can play just whenever. It has no specific, usually they don't have any specific summoning requirements other than having the necessary castles to play them, which we will get more into when we get to part 2, when we talk about the field. So as for our summoner here, the summoner is a warrior plus. It has the same abilities as a warrior. You can play it with no cost, but it also allows you to summon creatures. It serves as it's a summoner. It's pretty self-explanatory. You require summoners on the field to play creatures, aside from in a few instances, for example, if you use summoner's art. But we'll get to that in a second. So moving on to the creatures. Creatures are your powerhouses. They tend to be your powerhouses, and they can only be summoned by either using a summoner, using a summoner's art card, or some sorcery cards have special abilities that allow to remove all summoning costs. So in those 3 sort of scenarios, that's how you can summon creatures. Some creatures also have specific abilities, but that comes down to the card itself. So, so now we have the Summoner's Art card. Summoner's Art cards serve as one-use summoners. You can use them to play creatures or warriors in some cases. For example, in Key to the Soul's case, it allows you to conjure a warrior or creature from either player's void into one of your placement zones. In this instance, you would not need a summoner on the field because it is a Summoner's Art card and its ability allows you to summon. Moving on to our sorcery card. Sorcery cards are Quest spell cards. They activate a variety of different effects, and they vary card to card. Now, they don't really have a specific, they can be pretty much anything. Then we have the armament cards. Armament cards are equipment that you can attach onto your warriors, summoners, or creatures to give them bonuses and other special abilities. Now onto the Cardinal Tower. The castle pieces in this game serve as essentially your life points. Instead of having points that you have to protect, you have castles. You have to build and maintain a castle in order to stay alive. So you have to, this adds a lot to the deck building because you have to think about what kind of castles you'd like to build during the game. You can vary things up and mix them up. So you don't have to have the entirety of one castle. You can have 2 castles sort of mixed mixed and mashed together, and get effects from all of them, which is, I think, is a really interesting mechanic. So basically, life points, that's pretty much all you have to know about these. So now that you know pretty much everything there is to know about the different card types in the game, we're going to move on to the battlefield components. Now let's move on to the battlefield components. To start off, we'll go over the basic layout of your battlefield. You have 5 castle zones, 5 placement zones, 2 barricade zones, your summoner's art zone, your arsenal zone, and your void. Each of these zones has a different job. Now, to start off, we're going to go over a simple look at the battle mechanics of Quest in order to help me describe what these 2 zones, as well as the placement zones, do. The way that you win a game of Quest is by wiping out everything in your opponent's castle zone. That is how you claim victory. In order to get to your opponent's castle zone, you must first go through everything in their placement zone. Their placement zones must all be empty in order for you to attack any of their castle zones. That doesn't mean if they have a placement zone here that's empty and a castle card here, you still can't attack that card. But once everything in their placement zone is destroyed, you can attack their castles. But in order to attack their placement zones, you must kill everything in their barricade zones. So your barricade zones act as defenders against your placement zones and help you to live a little bit longer. But anything placed into a barricade zone still occupies a placement zone. So let me show you exactly what that means. We're going to come over here and grab a castle card and place it in our castle zone. Then we're going to come up here and grab a monster that is, or a warrior that is in a barricade zone. This warrior is in the barricade zone, but it still occupies this placement zone, which means you are not able to play another warrior in this zone. The only way to play warriors in Quest is to have castle cards on the field. You can play 1 warrior, summoner, or creature for every castle that you have on your field. But it has to be in a castle's placement zone. So you can't put him here, or here, or here, or here. It has to be here because this is where your castle is. Your cards will also gain abilities based on which castle zone, placement zone they are in compared to their castle. For example, Cardinal Tower's ability gives anything in its placement zone 200 power and health, which is nice. So you're going to want to take advantage of that. So, say we have let me get this back up here. Say we have a full field like this. In order for your opponent to attack your castle, they must first destroy your warrior up here in your barricade zone, and then destroy the warrior that you have in your placement zone before they can attack your castle. So it does drag on a little bit sometimes, but it never really seems to hold up the game too much, so it never seems like that much of a problem to have these many zones. Now, to move on to the other zones, you have your Summoner's Art Zone, which is where you play Summoner's Arts, obviously, which this is also where you will play your, let's see if I can find it, yes. This is also where you will play your sorcery cards. So, sorcery cards and Summoner's Art cards are played in these Summoner's Art zones. Most of them go to the Void immediately after activation, almost all of them, but some of them will say that they stay in this zone, which you're going to want to be careful with and strategize with because you only have one of these. So, now let's get this back over there. Now your Arsenal Zone is your deck. That's where your deck goes. Your deck is called an Arsenal in this game. So this is where your deck would be. So let me just do what your, see if I can, there we go. Okay, so let me just show you what your average game of Quest would sort of look like. No. You'll have your deck. You'll have castles. You'll have warriors, and probably you'll have your Summoner's Arts and all of that stuff. And the Void, I forgot to talk about the Void. So this is what your average game of Quest would look like. But your Void is just your graveyard in this game. This is where things go when they die. It's located behind your deck, and that's just where you put things when they die. So that's a brief look at the battlefield in Quest. now we're going to move on to the next part of the rules. Now we're going to talk about turn structure. You will start off by drawing 5 cards at the start of every game. Both players will draw 5 cards, and if you do not pull a castle card in your starting hand, you will take your hand, shuffle it back into the deck, and draw again. Now, at the beginning of your turn, regardless of who goes first, everybody will draw an extra card on the start of their turn. So even if you're going first, you will start with 6 cards. So you'll draw a card, and you'll start your turn. Now, what you're going to want to do at the start of every game is play you need to play your castle cards, since you kind of need to do that to be able to do anything in this game. You can play as many castle cards as you can per turn, as many as you want, and then you can play as many warriors or creatures as you can with the castles you're able to play. So once you've played your castles, you will then move into playing warriors and creatures. So once you've played your warriors and creatures, you can't play any more castles. You have to play your castles before summoning warriors and creatures. And summoners, obviously. So, well, once you do that, you can start playing your... Let's see if I can find it. You can start playing your warriors and all that stuff. And you can, during the phase when you're playing your warriors and summoners and creatures, that is also when you can play, for the most part, when you can play your... Let's see if I can find this. Your summoner's art. You move your summoner's art and your... Oh, geez. Don't find it. Let's just move you up here. There we go. And, let's see. There we go. And your sorcery cards. This is when you can play these guys. When you're playing your warriors, summoners, and creatures. Though, there are some exceptions, as some say you can activate them whenever you want. And sorcery cards are a little bit different. Sorcery cards can be played just about anytime you want. They sort of function as trap cards in that way. You can play them during your turn, during your opponent's turn, whichever, whenever you want. But this is when you'll mostly play most of your sorceries and summoners' arts. Now, another thing you need to know is that in order to change zones, as in move your warriors from your placement zones into your barricade zones, you need to you need to do that following their summoning. Like in the same phase that you are summoning them, you need to move them into a barricade zone. Once they are moved into a barricade zone, they are stuck there at least until the next turn. And then once you pull them out of the barricade zone, you cannot put them back into the barricade zone during that turn. You can put other warriors into barricade zones, but you cannot put you cannot take a creature or take a card out of a barricade zone and then put it back in the same turn. If that makes any sense. I think that's pretty self-explanatory. So following this initial activation and summoning conjuring phase, you move into your battle phase, where you attack your opponent. Where's my mouse? Where'd you go? Okay. You will attack your opponent's creatures in their barricade zones, placement zones, or their castles. Following that is, once you've completed your battle phase, that's basically it. You hit the end of your turn. Usually following your battle phase, there isn't really much you can do aside from equip armaments, which you can do after killing things. Like once you've completed your battle phase, you'll be in your... I hate to use Yu-Gi-Oh terms, but you'll be in your end phase. But during your end phase, you can play armament cards. You can equip armament cards to your cards, or to your summoners, warriors, creatures, whatever, what have you. You can still play armament cards. But once you've done that, you're pretty much done. Your turn ends, and your opponent starts their turn, and they have the same sort of thing. And this continues until you win. So that's about all I have for turn structure, and we'll move into the next part of this little video. Okay, now we're going to talk about castle abilities. Castle abilities are abilities that only activate once you've assembled the entirety of a castle. They differ from castle to castle and are usually written on the core of the castle. While the core tends to not have its own individual ability, it tends to list the castle's ability itself. The Cardinal Castle is a little bit on the weaker side because I didn't want to give it an extremely OP castle in the first set. It just lets you draw an extra card at the start of every turn. But how you activate this is by having completed the castle, whether it be all you have to do is have all of your castle zones filled with cardinal, in this case with cardinal castle pieces. They don't all have to be one of each or whatever, and they don't have to be in this exact order. Any order, it doesn't matter. I just think it looks cooler this way. So it's going to be the same for every other castle that gets released. Basically just assemble all of the pieces and you get a special super ability that's really cool alongside getting all of their individual abilities. For example, the 200 plus from the 2 cardinal towers, the keeps ability of, you know, being a keep, and and cardinal armory, making your warrior summoners. So you get those cool abilities plus the extra draw a card at the start of every turn ability. And that's sort of how the castle cards will work. So you always have to balance out whether or not you want the castle ability with whether or not you want to mix in some extra castle pieces from other castles when you're building your decks, because you'll get extra abilities from individual castle pieces as well as getting extra abilities from assembling whole castles. That's really about all there is to castle abilities. So we'll move on to the next bit. Okay, now we're going to talk about how battling works in Quest, because it can be a little bit finicky at times. So, basically how it works, regardless of whether the defending warrior, summoner, or creature is in a barricade zone or a placement zone, it will always be the attacker's damage versus the defender's health. So, in this case, it would be 2,000 versus 2,000. And while you might get confused because in games like Yu-Gi-Oh! A 2000 versus 2000 would result in both of their destructions, when battling other warriors, creatures, or summoners, you only have to have as equal to their health, and they are destroyed. That's all you need. So in this case, Loyal Leo here would win against Uranus. But if Uranus were to fight against Loyal Leo, it would be 600 versus 1900, and of course Uranus would lose and be destroyed. So it differs a little bit when you're attacking castle pieces, because castle cards, in order to make them a little bit more durable, the damage you're putting out needs to be more than the health of the castle card. So in this case, the 2000 versus 2000, Loyal Leo wouldn't be destroyed, of course, because castles kind of have a hard time fighting back, but he would not be able to destroy this cardinal tower because he does not have more than 2000 damage. I hope that makes sense. I tried to explain that as simply as I can. So just remember, when fighting other attackers, you just need what they have. Fighting castles, you need more. So less, more, or equal to, more. If you had less, that'd probably be pretty bad. So that's about it for the battling mechanics, and I'm not 100% sure I have any more left to talk about, but I guess you'll see. Yeah, okay, I was right. There's nothing more to talk about. So, guys, you now know the rules of Quest TCG, so maybe now if you go to pick up a set of packs of the first set, you'll actually know how to play the game. Again, the link to this Game Crafter page will be down in the description below. I hope you guys will check it out and pick up some packs if you're feeling up to it. If you do open packs, I would greatly appreciate it if you would, take video of it and link that in the description, because that would be amazing to see. Super hype. Again, I hope you guys enjoyed this video. If you did, please like, comment, and subscribe if you're feeling up to it. I hope you guys enjoyed finally learning how to play this game, and hopefully you'll see more battle videos in the near future. Again, I hope you enjoyed this video, and I'll see you guys next time.